order as soon as we're started. Just let me know when it's started. Welcome everyone to the November 3rd Facilities Advisory Committee meeting. Chair Brian Gebhardt called the meeting to order. We will start with the roll call. So I am present. Just speak your name, just acknowledge that you're here. So Cecily Lee.
Cecily Lee here.
Kenyana Pinzon is not present. She's our student representative. Henry Fung.
Here.
Tom Ekman.
Here.
Mary Vigil, our CSCA representative, is not present. Michelle Hartman-Gruber, our SCIU representative, is not present. Sharon Coco.
Present.
William Rochek.
Present.
Lusa Sengi. Not present. Robert Ho.
Present.
Jennifer Parker is not present. It's one of our new community members from Kennedy. Jennifer Ochi is a new parent Arlington attendance member. And unfortunately, I do not see either of them present. And we also have Shatita Malik, who was also appointed as a parent in Kennedy. Oh, no, she's been here for a while. I don't see her present as well. So with only 7 members present, we don't have quorum. So we will not be taking any actions in this meeting tonight. The next item of business is to adopt the agenda. Please take a look at the agenda. We may need to rearrange some items because unfortunately, staff is not present yet. The CBOC meeting is going a bit long. And I will actually propose, without the new board members here, we do not need to, probably do not need to, we should hold over the Brown Act overview until a later meeting. So table the Brown Act overview. It's my request.
Does that include the affirmation of remote meetings?
Well, that's part of the training, I guess I need. Firm continuation of remote meetings. Oh, I see your point.
I understand it has to be done every 30 days. Although I guess we can't really take action on that.
I'm learning on this front too. Okay, so we won't table the item. Well, it sounds like there are a couple items worth discussing there to educate the committee. But we'll likely bring it back for a fuller overview when we have our new members. Any other, any other questions or adjustments, or any other questions or comments about the agenda? Is there a, I guess technically, because we don't have quorum, I don't know if there's a really, do I call for, or maybe I don't even call for a motion in this case, since we really can't take action. But we'll use this as the guide for our conversations tonight. So. So we may move around on the topics quite liberally because there's most of the topics rely on staff. But so I will do introductions when they join. But for the approval of the minutes, we do not actually have minutes available, nor can we take action on them in this meeting from the September 27th meeting. So I will follow up with staff to get those. Are there any public comments or oral or written communications? This would be the point at which time anybody could talk on something not on the agenda. All right. Hearing none. I'm not aware of any written comments. I will check with staff to make sure we get those. Now, so really the only thing on our agenda that we could talk to at this point, actually, we'll wait a moment to recognize Mary Vigil. All right.
All right.
So I want to welcome.
Sorry, they were still talking, so I had to leave.
Thank you, Kelly, for joining. We actually have just achieved quorum with Mary Vigil joining us. So I think I will go back to the start and formally adopt the agenda, ask for a motion to adopt the agenda now that we have quorum.
I will move to adopt the agenda. Cecily.
I'll second. This is Sharon.
And all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, lower your hands. And any opposed? I'll say I have appreciation for how Antonio used to do this. He was very, said my, all right, so let me update that. All right, cool. So the agenda is adopted. We will now move on to introductions and Kelly, if you could introduce yourself and Laura Forrest to the committee, or she can introduce herself as well.
Sure. Kelly Lynch McMahon, I'm the Director of Facilities for Fremont Unified. We have with us Laura Forrest, our Principal Information Officer, and we also have Tom Ekman with us, who is our supervisor for our landscape and maintenance teams.
Oh, fantastic. So, and also a member. Thank you, Laura, for joining and for being the scribe for CBOC, which actually takes us to our next item 3, approval of minutes notes. I did not get a chance, Kelly, to check with you on if we had any minutes or notes from the last meeting, but you know, as none were posted, but we'll need to bring that forward at our next meeting.
You know, I apologize, Brian, with all the changes that have been happening in my department. That's one of the things that fell through the cracks. So just so that you guys know, over the last 2.5 weeks, I've lost my admin assistant and I've lost my senior project manager. So I am, in essence, a 1-person and 1 CAD operator department right now. So I apologize if things get lost, but that's part of why you don't have the meeting minutes, because the last meeting, I believe Eddie was taking those minutes, and he did do them, but where they are, I'll have to find them again.
We all have a lot of empathy in this day of pandemic day and age here. So thank you for the background, Kelly. Do we have any members of the public for oral communications? I see only Liz Fisher in the meeting. So yes, Liz.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody on the committee for your service to our school district, and I wish you a good year.
Oh, thank you, Liz. And thank you for your service on this committee over the years as well. You're welcome back anytime. Do we know if we got any written communications, Kelly?
We do not have any written communications at this time.
Thank you. So that brings us to our first item, which is the market conditions update. Oh, excuse me.
So in terms of a market conditions update, Lisa actually spoke to this in the CBOC. So right now, currently the district is experiencing the pressures of the supply chain issues that everybody is talking about in the news. We are tracking and monitoring all the progress of our materials and supplies in-house as well as on the construction projects. And so currently right now we are running around 3 to 4 weeks behind on our structural steel, our rubber products, our flooring tiles and sheet vinyl for floor replacement, our carpet pads and insulation products, our roof jacks for new HVAC units that go on roof mounted systems. And then our, it's a thin insulation barrier that actually goes on the roofing. And we are also feeling the impacts of that on all 3 of our current major construction projects. In terms of internally, I know that M&O has been tracking and maintaining their database as to what products that they are feeling price increases on, as well as the pressures of not having supplies delivered as promised. But nothing has immediately impacted us directly to say that, hey, we're not able to deliver on these immediate items right now. One of the things that we are looking at doing and that we have started to do is to look at our outside resources outside the state of California, as well as outside the country. So we're looking at Canada, Mexico. China is very constrained right now in terms of what they provide us. And we are also looking at our domestic suppliers to see if there's any opportunity for them to offer up some relief and honor some of these pre-negotiated prices on some of the items that we're feeling the pressures on. The most recent item, there was a notification that was sent out to, I believe, the parents in the community earlier in the week for Hopkins Middle School. And there was a decision made based on this particular issue of not having, material supplies in a timely fashion to keep the students at the Lila Bringhurst location for the remainder of the school year and move them back to Hopkins, I believe, in the summer, so that they can be ready to have instruction back on the Hopkins campus in August of 2022. And so I believe that that information was distributed and disseminated to the community as well as staff earlier in this week. And Laura, you can validate that for me, because I know that we've been working back and forth, and I don't remember what the exact date was that we released that information to them.
They received it yesterday.
Okay, okay. Oh, that's right, today's only Wednesday. I'm thinking it's Friday. It's been one of those weeks, so I'm sorry. And as far as other items, so the Washington High School Theater, our anticipation is to have everything completed on that project by the first week of December. And when I say everything, that means we can turn the keys over and they can open up the doors, and voila, you know, the students and staff can utilize the theater for the productions that it's intended for. We have a lot of good progress on some of the other Centerville as well as Thornton. And we don't feel the market pressures as much on the Thornton project, because since that started a little bit earlier than the rest, we employed a strategy last summer when we kind of felt that things were starting to get heated up. We overstock on several of the products, and so we had a good supply of stock on hand to complete several of the buildings without feeling the impacts of what's going on in the supply chain right now. So that's my update. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
And please raise your virtual hand if you have questions, but I also wanted to provide some context, some framing context I should have provided at the beginning of the item as well. This item and the next item are really about kind of getting us some education about what's going on, because there have been a lot of challenges in the facilities department, as Kelly McMahon had noted. And I think it'll help us as a committee to understand the challenges better as we start to talk to some of the other future topics that we expect will come to the meeting, whether it's facilities decisions on which facilities to focus on and to prioritize, perhaps, whether it's related to demographics, whether it's related to funding sources. There's a lot of need across the district, as we know, and so having an understanding of the current context is the intent here. So Robert, please go ahead and ask your question.
So Kelly, you mentioned that there are 3 projects being impacted by the supply chain, and one's Hopkins. What are the other 2?
Thornton and Centerville. Those are our 3 major projects right now that are under construction. We have a lot of other small ones, but in terms of significance, those are the 3 that are feeling the pressures right now.
Okay, you said Thornton and Centerville are doing okay because they started earlier?
Yes.
So, okay, so they are still impacted, but they're doing decent.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So it's really only Hopkins.
Yes. Yes. I had a funny story for you guys. I was talking to the principal earlier this week, and he says, boy, we've been talking about what to do with the school. And he says, Kelly, sometimes I just think this place is haunted, because we've had so many delays and so many hiccups since the beginning of the process of doing the modernization, that he said, I just think that, somebody's playing a bad trick on us, but we'll just suffer through and get to the end and then laugh about it when we get there. So, but I thought that was funny.
Definitely a good story. Henry, please ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So this might have to do with the next topic also, but in terms of how the market is affecting this. So when I brought up about the air purifiers needing replacement filters, is that being affected also? And then one of the things, I totally understand how understaffing the facility department is dealing with having to replace all these filters, but since they all going to have to need to replace soon, if not already, is this affected also getting the supplies that we need to replace these air purifiers filters?
So Yes and no. So we have a ample supply of filters that we are in the process of using right now for replacement. When those run out is when we will probably feel the impact. But right now, they're, it's a first come, first serve, and they're kind of going through sites one at a time to kind of have that happen. But the goal was when those were purchased, there was one replacement filter that was purchased for each unit. So as that stock is used, then, we're in the process of placing orders for more, but I don't know what that impact is as of yet, because we're kind of in the process of doing it, but more than likely we will. And hopefully, I know that I spoke with Kevin Arthur earlier in the week, and they are in the process of putting together kind of a consolidation list and a master list of some of the things that they need to procure, before the end of the year, and get things on hand for some of the work that'll be done over, the Christmas break and early in the spring.
Okay, I mean, so when I brought up about the how staff, how teachers should request getting these purifiers, getting replacement filters for them. So would it help that that our school principal just tell you where all the purifiers are, so then you only get one work order instead of getting like hundreds and thousands
Yes,
of these work orders?
that would be awesome, Henry. Because then it's just one work order and we can knock it all out. But in talking with Kevin, his preference was to go ahead and have the work order system be utilized, since that's how they track the requests and can address them as they come in. But if you can consolidate them and say, hey, my 700 wing or my 300 wing or my, however your school is numbered, put that down, and then they can have a very clear sort of path of travel of how they can implement and address those needs for you guys.
Okay, we'll let our teachers know to do that, but if you can also let the principals know, also just let them know that, oh, this is how they should help request these filters. I just don't want to because you're also understaffed now. We just don't want to overwhelm you by hundreds and thousands of these work orders. So it'll be so much easier if the principal can just say, oh, our school have all these purifiers and these are when they need to be replaced.
Yeah,
Then you
the other thing that we are going to ask the principals to is just to remind everybody to turn the air filters off.
Yes, yeah, we got that email today, so that helps.
Okay,
so we'll keep reminding teachers to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for bringing it up.
Kelly, also I spoke to maintenance earlier this week also, and they were looking into possibly handing out like a certain amount of filters per site to cover the purifiers that were delivered. So it may not have to be a work order system. Right now, they have been handing them out to individual classrooms and rooms that have been going, saying they needed replacement. But I think they're working on a plan to actually give a site a certain amount so that they're on site.
Okay. That would definitely free up some room in the warehouse in terms of having the stock on hand. So that would be good. All right.
Any other questions? Seeing none, let's move to our next item, the maintenance and operations overview and HVAC update. And
unfortunately, we don't have Mr. Brad Froms here with us. He was unable to attend this evening. The evaluations for the HVAC systems, as well as the water usage study that we were talking about getting off the ground and moving in the springtime. So she has started, I believe, I think she did 2 schools on the schedule this week, but the goal is for her to complete 2 per week through the end of the year, or till she finishes, all of the sites district wide. And what that is, excuse me, is she's doing an evaluation to measure the performance of the existing systems that are in place, to make sure that the airflow, as well as the what do we call it? The ASTM standard of performance and measurement of output for airflow and filtration are being actually adhered to. So she's going in and testing and tracking and documenting to say that, yes, you know, we're in compliance, or no, we're not. And so once she finishes that evaluation, we'll have a report that we can share with everyone and see, you know, what our report card actually looks like, and try and address and you know, deal with whatever comes up in that report. So, but that's where we are with that. And Lila Bringhurst HVAC issues, it's my understanding, last week, all of the as problems were addressed, the warranty process with the contractor. And I've not been made aware of any other outstanding issues at that site. The issue at the Horner Middle School, that is still being evaluated, and we're in the process of meeting with PG&E and with the contractor to determine why those systems keep sort of kind of shutting off randomly. And it appears that there's some power spikes that we're receiving from PG&E, and that's why they've been brought to the table to have a discussion about what measures can be put in place for us to stop those power spikes before the power comes into the site. And hopefully that'll address our issues with systems kind of turning themselves off randomly due to power spikes. And I think that's it as it relates to HVAC.
Thank you for the update. I think some of the other context that could have inspired me to suggest this agenda item, and obviously we don't have the head of maintenance and operations here, so if my questions or any of the other questions that come up, you need to look into them and get back to us, that's more than fine. But I think understanding what maintenance and operations covers and what it's not, what it doesn't cover. You know, how much funds do we have for maintenance? How underfunded is it? And then I know there were some there were a lot of maintenance requests, or more maintenance requests than could be covered at some point, was the impression I got. So kind of how has that been improving? Or are there challenges there getting just like there are challenges in a lot of industries getting the right talent and getting staffed at the right levels. So those are some of the things that I thought would be useful background for the committee, especially as we're going to undoubtedly start to hear more about our facilities needs, and that's probably a future topic, but as we see more and more of the facilities needs, it'd be good to understand some of that context.
You know what, Brian, I'll put together something and I can send it out, and you can share it with the committee after you've had an opportunity to review it. But I can put together like a frequently asked questions type thing, if that would be helpful.
Oh, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Maybe even great to post on online as well. And so you got some of my questions. Are there any other questions from the committee that or comments around this area?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Well, then that brings us to our next item, which is the Brown Act overview. I think we actually don't have our new members here today, but so I'll bring it back for a bigger overview with them. But it seems like especially how to do remote meetings and that sort of thing seems like something that even I need to learn, because I was already one of the FAC members asked me about that. So Perhaps we scope this down to just some of the key updates we need to know. Or maybe it's just, do we need to take action to affirm the continuation of remote meetings, and how does that work? I think that's probably the scope of what we need to discuss.
I have some information about that. I asked for it to be added to I added it to the agenda. So I did need to change the agenda and make it a special meeting for this. So due to AB 361, committees or bodies acting under the Brown Act must reaffirm every 30 days their need to continue with virtual meetings if they aren't doing in-person meetings. So if this body wants to continue meeting virtually, every 30 days, it must reaffirm its need to do that by vote. If you don't meet within a 30-day timeline, it looks like there may need to be a special meeting called to bridge those 30 days to reaffirm that every 30 days. We're getting confirmation on that. There is a handout that I can, I'll throw a link to it in the chat, but a vote does need to happen to affirm that. Then following, sorry, do you know what date this committee next meets?
First Wednesday of December.
It would be December
So-
1st.
Okay. So this vote will get us through to that meeting. And I'll throw a link to more information in the chat right now.
Oh, I see your point, because because we don't meet every 30 days.
Exactly, and that's an issue other committees are running into right now.
Is there a position the district has on whether, or the board has on whether the committee should continue to meet virtually, or is there an option to meet in person?
It's up to the committees, and this only applies to committees that have Brown Act regulations that meet, like have board appointed members. So it's up to committees. It's great, and the district supports virtual meetings because those sometimes get more people, but it is up to each committee to make that decision with what is best for its members and members of the public.
Thank you. So the action we'll need to take will be to reaffirm remote meetings. I guess are there any other questions or comments from the committee before we move to a motion? Before I move to ask for a motion. Okay. So, someone who could make an emotion, either affirm or not affirm a continuation of remote meetings.
I will make the motion to affirm the meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, affirm the continuation of remote meetings.
Yes.
I'll second. Cecily.
Thank you, Mary and Cecily. If there's no discussion, then we'll move to vote, please. Please raise your hand in the either in person or in the Zoom. Lower your hand. And that's all those in favor. And then are there any opposed? Please raise your hand. I see motion carries. All right, that will bring us to our next item, which is staff update. I will turn it over to Kelly to share with us her update.
Staff update, letter A, recent board decisions. So last board meeting, there were 2 items that the facilities department brought forward. One was the request to allow the residual surplus funds from projects that have been completed be put back into the program contingency. And so that item was approved unanimously, and we were able to reallocate I believe it was $1.6 million back into the program contingency. The current program contingency balance for the Measure E project, excluding the state dollars that have been reimbursed, is $2,700,021.304. If we identify and include the state reimbursement dollars, this fiscal year, we've received $15,877,413 for a grand total that is currently residing in the program contingency line item of $18,254,939. Excuse me. We are anticipating another $1.5 million will be received by the end of the year. That will also be provided now to program contingency. The board is in the process of reviewing, excuse me, the prioritization of the projects that are remaining, and has requested that I provide them an update in December as to what those projects' real values are now in 2021-22 dollars, and where, if any, there's a delta that may exist in terms of what money was allocated versus what money is necessary to complete projects. The second item that was a board decision was the allocation and approval of an additional $325,000 that was provided to the Washington High School Theater. And that request was brought forward because in the process of completing the theater, we did run into some additional dry rot and mold issues that were structural related. And we also had to purchase additional lighting and sound equipment for the school to allow for the space to meet the requirements for it to be usable as a instructional space. So additional lights as well as additional speakers were purchased to supplement and support the existing speakers and lights that were reused from the previous, prior to the modernization. So in doing so, will allow them to utilize the theater this coming winter and potentially prepare for spring production to actually utilize the theater. The other thing that is still outstanding on that particular item is the ticker tape, which is, the rolling message that, you see on theaters or on billboards. That's being delayed due to shipping issues, getting it out of India, and also getting the mountings out of Germany. So we were hoping to have those by Thanksgiving, but we were recently informed that those will probably not reach us until sometime in January. And so we will have those items installed and addressed when they arrive and have the contractor return and complete that scope of work. But those were the two action items that I had that were presented from the board, and that was the outcome. The next item is the construction progress and other information. Yes.
As a suggestion, maybe we take each item in turn in case members have questions.
Sure. Are there
And-
any questions on what I've just reported?
And William,
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm having some audio issues. You said that there were additional funds for the Washington Theater that we had dry rot and mold identified. Were those funds requested in addition to what might have already been allocated to the contingency line item in the budget?
So yes, they were. So that project budget, we have exhausted all of our funds, all of our contingency, as well as our scope work. And what we ended up doing, because we did have those surplus funds from other projects, I had asked the board permission, rather than taking the entire, amount and putting it back in program contingency, to actually utilize those dollars and put it towards the Washington project. So what they were able to do was basically take those funds back and then allocate those dollars to me, so that there was basically a zero impact to the project program contingency as a whole. And so we realized the deficit, but we didn't feel the deficit because the funds were never there. So that is how that transaction occurred. And I try and do that whenever possible so that we always kind of conserve those dollars for projects that haven't started yet.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions? I did have a couple questions. Could you repeat, you said you anticipate an additional, I didn't catch the number of additional funds coming from the state? from the
Additional
matching?
1.5 million. So we have outstanding about 9 projects that we had applied for matching funds for. In the process of monitoring and tracking where these applications are, when we submit them, OP that would be funded, of course, always based on the governor's budget every year. But there were 2 additional projects that were approved for us this year. And so they totaled about 1.5 million in reimbursements. And so we are hoping to realize those within this next calendar year, because they stated that when they send us our apportionment letter, it's usually within 3 months of the date that we should be receiving funds. So anytime within that 3 months, we might get another letter from them stating, hey, you are now funded and you should be expecting these dollars. And so that's where that number came from.
Thank you. I also wanted to make sure I understood the kind of the scope of the December item around prioritization of remaining projects. Well, I'll start with kind of like, so previously the board asked FAC in conjunction, well, staff and FAC together to come up with what became the current project plan. And so I guess that context is kind of to see if this is something that FAC would be looked to help with at all.
So just to clarify, I'm not changing the prioritization in terms of what you guys have already recommended and that the board has actually approved. My task has been to take what we already have identified and basically do a real-time cost estimate for those. Since those were priced more than 5 years ago, we're seeing an uptick in, of course, all of our materials and expenditures for various things. They've just asked me to do a update to those costs. And if the costs are too big of a delta from where, we started from where we are now, then they're going to have to make a decision about prioritizing what we have left on the table versus against the funds that we have available to spend. And so that's the context of how that process will work. So I definitely will be bringing that information to you all to review, and you of course can offer your opinion and recommendations once we have that information as well. But that's the reason for it, not to change scopes or shuffle anything around, but just what we already have, what we've already decided upon, and that we're moving towards, just validate and verify that those numbers will hold for what it is that we are expecting to do.
Thank you. And this is not the first time that the plan has been updated with updated numbers over the years. So that's the first step for sure. Any other questions? All right, well then, an update on construction progress and other updates you want to provide.
Let's see, in terms of construction projects, I can't remember if I told the CVOC, if I've already told you guys that I did. So we are keeping the Hopkins students at the Lila Bringhurst site. So what that will afford the opportunity for us to do at the Hopkins site is to actually get started on some work that was going to start in the summer to get started now. And so we are not making any false promises to say, oh yeah, everything's going to be done. But we are accelerating and we are starting some scopes of work sooner that we did not have the opportunity to do if the students had returned. The other thing is, now that we do have the materials issues, we're being very cautious and conservative in terms of how we approach and execute the remainder of the work. We are expecting a very wet, rainy season this year, and so we are preparing and anticipating for some rain delays, as well as some site impacts in terms of the underground construction for some of the footings and foundations and utilities for some of these new buildings. And so we've actually had several meetings this week already to talk about strategies and different measures that we can take to offset and be prepared for a little bit of extra weather that we're expecting to get. There should not be too much of a cost impact, but we have accounted for that in our budgets. But we're going to do the best that we can to, of course, utilize those funds at minimal and to get this work moving. If you go by Hopkins, you should see the beginnings of the first floor of the K1 building. That structural steel is starting to arrive and is slowly being put up. They're currently doing all the roof work on buildings A, B, and E. And they're doing the foundations and the utility work for the new 2-story structure, which is on the northwest side of the campus facing, oh my gosh, I drive that street every day. Is it Driscoll or Osgood? I think is it Osgood? Yes, Osgood. And let's see, so far we've heard the students are very happy at Lila. Nobody's been complaining. The parents, of course, are not happy about the commute and the busing, but we are very happy that the students are in a safe environment and one that they can enjoy their day at school and not be hampered by loud noise and construction, dirt and dust and all that fanfare that goes along with it. That's Hopkins. Thornton, if you all have an opportunity, swing by there. It actually looks like 2 new classroom buildings now. They're working on the courtyard area, and all of the interior work is being worked on. We're expected to have those classrooms ready by next spring for August 2022 use, but the principal is talking about different needs that he has at the site, but that is the current plan right now. And then they are beginning to prepare the administration center, the library, and I believe there's 4 additional classrooms that will be bid in the next 30 days for construction to begin on those in early March of next year. And so as stated before, all of the middle schools will convert and accept students for full-time attendance in August of 2023. The third school is Centerville, and Centerville is moving along really well too. We have the beginnings of the first floor, and I believe the northwestern corner of the 2-story new structure that is going up. And we have all of the structural steel for that building, but we are running short on the secondary building. And so we're just going to kind of move forward with the first one where we have all the parts too, and then work on waiting on the remainder of the rest of the structural steel for the second building. That project is going along really well. We are running into similar soil conditions that Thornton had, but because we had Thornton as our first project, we have some very creative and innovative ways to mitigate the soil impacts that we're experiencing there. And so I'll keep you guys posted, but for right now, it's not hampering the progress of the schedule. And so we've been able to manage those challenges and stay within our budgets and mainly maintain our schedule as it has been planned. Let's see what other projects. We have a lot of other projects that are getting ready to start. One of the things that has been a big concern and a big requests from all the school sites are canopies and shade structures and shelter structures. Since the rainy season is starting, they need to have outdoor space and covered space for the students to have lunch and to, just be outside when the inclement weather is here. I'm working with M&O to come up with a solution. We don't have one yet, but we are working on it. And once we have something tangible, we'll bring that forth to the community to have a discussion about and to share with what some of those solutions are. But that also is another product that we're running into supply chain issues in that, everybody in the state of California is buying shade structures now. So we have to kind of get in line and be at the mercy of those that have the merchandise to provide it for us. So we are working on some solutions and a couple Band-Aids here and there to get us to the point where we can have, regular structures at all of the sites. So that's my update on construction.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, well, I have a question actually for the committee. I thought it good to understand the type of information the committee would like in the staff update. I think it's good feedback for me and Kelly, but also from time to time we have full agendas. We actually, the lighter agenda tonight, but when we have full agendas, I want to make sure if I shrink staff update that I make sure that it includes the most critical stuff that the committee is interested in. So is there any feedback from the committee on the type of information they want to hear in the staff update? Henry.
I know we had a discussion on this earlier, like maybe last year, the year before, but did we ever have a stats on like how many bathrooms each school has and how many they still need? Did we ever have, can we get an update on that and what can be done for schools who still don't have enough bathrooms for students and staff?
Henry, I remember seeing an old memo from like 2018, but I'll have to do a little more digging on that. I know since I've been here, you guys have not requested that information from me, but I know that there was something that was done, but I couldn't tell you what the status or the update of what the outcome of that was.
Okay. And would you be able to get for us also, like what is the legal, like how many bathroom we're supposed to have, like per students? Oh, someone I think share something with us, Cecily.
Yeah, I just put a board doc that I had looked at earlier. It's from December 9th, 2017. It's called Toilet Assessment. I dropped the link in the chat, but for the video purposes, it's from December 9th, 2017. I pulled it a long time ago, so I don't remember, but I believe it was from a board meeting, but that I can't tell you any more than that.
Okay,
I don't
thank
remember
you.
anything else.
So I wonder if Kelly and her department can maybe help us on getting more updated information. Like I know just at, many schools, they have either increased number of classrooms or number of students already that this, so see if there's a way we can get an updated info. But this is a great start. So thank you, thank you, Cecily.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Henry.
So just to clarify, that'd be a request to share with the committee an email, the latest information about available about school bathrooms and our bathroom standards for the schools. Is that sound reasonable, Kelly?
I'm sorry about that. Yes, that's fine.
And I don't know if this is also would be a part of what the long range facilities master plan update will be looking at this information again too. If that work is planned, we can coordinate around that timing.
It definitely is part of it. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to yell, I'm so loud.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Kelly. I think, thank you for the updates.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the next item, subcommittee reports. I realized too late that there's actually a subcommittee I should have included. But the demographic subcommittee, I believe it's technically me and Henry, since Liz Fisher and Antonio are no longer on the committee, but there's been no progress on that committee. I'm not sure exactly how to categorize this, but one of the committees that Sharon Coco is actually representing FAC on is the SDI Mandarin Immersion Program Task Force. And I think maybe that is would be good to include in our agenda and in future agendas, as well as if there's any updates you wanted to share with us now, Sharon, I think that would be valuable.
The committee met on Monday, I think it was Monday. And they talked about capacity versus program at the school sites, the difference between the two, to reiterate again, just how that is looked at, what the school can hold program-wise and what the school can hold capacity-wise. So they had that conversation, and they are going to send out a parent survey to the parents in the MIP and SDI programs. And I haven't seen the final one yet, but they're asking them, you know, would they attend if the program were moved to a specific school? Right now, there's only 3 sites, and it's really not verified that they can hold the programs, but they're talking about Grimmer, Blaco, and Lila Bringhurst. At this point in time, the board has not determined that Lila will be available because of the fiscal impact of opening a school and running the school. So once they get the parent survey back, they will share it with the committee members, and then they will come up based on the results with a recommendation to the board early in 2022, I believe January or early February board meeting, to bring to the board recommendations once again on the programs and where they will be housed going forward. So stay tuned. It's an ongoing project.
Thank you, Sharon. I'll note that that the information and the videos are posted on the district website at fremont.k12.ca.us/immersion task force, which I also share in the chat.
Correct. Yes.
Are there any questions? Well, that takes us to thoughts on future meeting topics. First, ask the committee if there are any topics you want to consider. And I'll share a number of topics Kelly and I am predicting may be coming in the coming months. But are there any topics the committee members have first that they want to bring forward? Okay, well, I'll share some of the topics I'm expecting that may or may not make our agenda, or that I'll be recommending. The updated demographic report is coming soon. Yeah, you correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but potentially as early as the next board meeting.
It's probably going to be in December, because I don't think that, I don't know that it's going to be ready this week, because I know that we have to get all of our agenda items in by Friday.
So then that puts it probably in January for FAC. Or,
I don't know, we'll see. But I'm not confident, but they may surprise us and deliver it on the 17th. And you can then count on it in December.
okay. And given some of the previous reports in the declining enrollment, even in, I can't remember the board meeting I went to, I think that's going to be an important area for us to dig into. The you know, to some degree related to that, the SDI MIP immersion task force recommendation, it's going to rely on where we have space too, and that will have interesting ripple effects as well. So I think since I think we will want to review that recommendation as well, in case we have input on it. Another topic I know is discussed at the board is facilities funding sources, and you know, what are the facilities funding sources, and with these state matching funds that are coming in, where should those funds be applied? And I think I want to recommending we bring forward an item that educates the FAC on the different facilities funding sources, as well as a potential action to recommend practices. Like the FAC recommends that these would be the practices in relation to the funding sources where there's a choice. And then Kelly mentioned earlier that the there's going to be a bond implementation plan updates with updated costs in December. So that could potentially be something we either want to agendize, or at bare minimum want the committee to look at that updated item. Kelly and I have talked about the long range facilities master plan update, and the next action there is to get together. We had the two joint subcommittees from FAC and CBOC, and we're going to get together to plan out with staff and the consultants how best to engage with these two bodies. So that is still outstanding. When that happens, after that happens, that'll come back to FAC with information and potential action. So those are the items that I'm thinking about right now. Any comments, questions, or additions? Oh, and of course, we'll bring back the Brown Act and take some time to do some introductions with our new members when they join. So our agendas will start filling up. That's for sure. There's a lot of important facilities work and a lot of important facilities decisions coming, I think, in the next year. So in the coming months. Any other topics? Hearing none, then I will move. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I was just gonna say, I guess I'm not gonna see you all before Thanksgiving, so I will wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to everyone.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? well, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. And with that, we'll adjourn tonight's meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.